Good morning, guys. I hope that you guys are having a great week so far. Today is Wednesday, May 13th, and I just can't believe that this week's almost over. We're halfway through, and you guys can do it. So you guys only have a couple more days left. Make sure that on Friday you guys fill out your learning menus or your survey so that you guys can get credit for this week. So today's Wednesday. For reading, you're dealing with synonyms and antonyms. Remember, synonyms same, antonyms opposite. Make a list of 10 words. Try to think of synonyms for the word and an antonym. Okay. Math, measure the height of any family member and make a graph to share your measurements. Why do cats purr? Write at least 2 predictions. Write a thank you letter to a first responder, soldier, or member of the community. Thank them for all they do. This would be a really, really good time to maybe do someone in your life who's a nurse. Last week was Nurse Appreciation Week. Or like a doctor, or, obviously, yes, first responder, anything like that. But just someone that during this time has still been having to work. And we appreciate them all the time, but especially during this time, whenever our best thing for us to do is to stay home, but they still have to work a lot. So make sure that you write some type of thank you letter to them. Specials, can you make each of the digits 0 through 9 using your whole body? Recreate your phone number, or you can do Go Noodle. Okay, Thursday, you're going to read a cold read, and that's in the link. Types of angles, right, obtuse, and acute. Use the link below. So it's some type of worksheet. Collect as many different leaves as you can. Lay a blank piece of paper over the leaf. Rub a crayon or pencil over the paper. Do this for each of your leaves. Examine how the leaves are similar or different. I've done this before with my 4th graders. It's really cool. Write a poem about how you are feeling today. Try to have at least 4 rhyming words in your poem. Bake a dessert using an online book or recipe. Follow each step and measurements closely. Enjoy your work. Okay, and so after those 2 days, you guys only have Friday left. And you guys are done. You guys will be done with 3rd grade, and I've just been so incredibly proud of you guys during this time. I know that it's not easy, and I honestly, I've always had faith in you guys, but I've just been blown away by how well you guys have handled this. I really have gotten hardly any phone calls from parents or anything, with some of you guys not doing what you're supposed to. I've barely gotten any. I've mostly gotten, oh yeah, they're doing great, they're doing what they're supposed to, and that I'm just so proud of you guys. And I hope that we can be reunited soon so that I can show my appreciation in person. But anyway, you guys just keep safe and keep working hard. You guys only have a couple days left. So we are on chapter 9, and it looks like we could actually finish this. Trying to look and see. So there are 12 chapters. So I will read to chapter 10. So we may not finish it, but we'll be very close. Try to finish it. The children are carried off. The attack came as a complete surprise. The pirates had snuck quietly through the forest until they were close to the home beneath the ground. There, they waited for dawn. Hook had learned his tactic from the Indians. The Indians guarding the secret lair knew the pirates were on the island, of course, but they did not expect an attack before dawn. They sat quietly with blankets wrapped around them, unaware that Hook and had his evil band were so near. The pirates swooped into the Indians' camp just before daylight. An alert scout uttered a coyote cry as a warning, but it was too late. When the stunned Indians saw the pirates, they leaped to their feet. A dozen braves circled Tiger Lily to protect her. Others ran to meet the other pirates. The air filled with war cries, the ring of cold steel against iron, and the shouts of fallen men. It was a gruesome battle in which many perished on both sides, but the pirates did not let up their attack. Soon the small circle of Indians protecting Tiger Lily was all that remained of the tribe. Fighting for their lives, the Indians cut their way through the ring of pirates and escaped. Hook was elated, but he was not satisfied. It was Peter Pan he was after. The pirate despised Peter. True, Peter had thrown Hook's hand to the crocodile, which was the reason enough to dislike someone, but Hook's hatred went beyond that. It wasn't Peter's good looks or courage that drove Hook crazy. It was Peter's utter cockiness. Hook vowed to smash the bothersome boy like a mosquito. Hook studied the hollow trees leading to the underground home. The openings were too narrow for fat pirates. He looked over his band for someone who could wriggle his way into the cavern below. In the meantime, the children had heard the sounds of battle over their heads. They listened, frozen with fear, to the whoops of men and the clang of steel. Now it was silent. Wendy, John, Michael, Peter, and the lost boy stared at one another. The same question was on everyone's lips. Which side won? Peter gazed upward with the hand cupped to his ear. If the Indians have won, they will beat their tom-tom as a sign of victory, he said. The others coupled their ears to listen. A pirate near a hollow tree heard what Peter said and reported it to Hook. Hook grinned a devilish smile. He turned to Smee. Beat the drum, he said. Smee chuckled at the captain's devious plan. He beat the drum in the Indian manner. Listen, Peter exclaimed when he heard the victory tom-tom. The Indians have won. We can leave after all, Wendy said. The children said goodbye to Peter and made ready to hurry up the hollow tree for their journey home. But the pirates had another plan. They smirked and rubbed their hands as they waited for the children to pop out of the hollow trees. Curly was the first one out. He fell into the hands of a pirate who quickly passed him to another. One by one, the children were captured as they stepped out of the openings in the hollow trees. Wendy was last. Hook removed his hat and bowed graciously when he saw Wendy. He personally escorted her to where the boys were being tightly bound with stout rope so they could not escape. Wendy was surprised by Hook's unusual politeness and did not cry out even when she too was tied. Hook watched them with pleasure as the men tied up the children. As Slightly was being tied, the sinister captain noticed something about the boy that nobody else had seen. Slightly's belly was swollen round from his habit of drinking too much water. This could mean only one thing. The opening in Sly's hollow tree had to be large enough for a man to slip through. If so, Hook could let himself into the home under the ground. Meanwhile, unaware of the battle above, Peter had continued for a time to play on his pipes. Then he lay down on his bed and fell asleep. As the pirates carried the children off to their ship, Hook tiptoed to Slightly's hollow tree and slithered down the hole like a snake. He stood behind the door at the bottom and listened. The cavernous room was silent. Hook peered through a crack in the door. He wiped his smirking lips from the back of his head. Across the room, lying sound asleep, was Peter. His medicine bottle was on a table next to the bed. The medicine had not been touched. Hook knew at once how he would get rid of Peter forever. Hook carried a bottle of powerful poison with him at all times. It was a vile, yellow substance he had concocted himself. He slipped the bottle from his sash and poured 5 potent drops into Peter's medicine cup. Hook knew that the moment Peter took his medicine, he would be rid of the boy forever. Satisfied that the deed was done, Hook slipped back up the hollow tree and disappeared into the forest. Later, a soft tapping on the window woke Peter from his sleep. The sound of the tinkling bells filled the air. Peter smiled. It was Tink. He quickly opened the door. The tiny fairy burst into the room. Peter saw at once why she was upset. What's the matter, Tink? He asked. Tinkerbell told Peter how the pirates had captured Wendy and the boys, and how they were at this moment prisoners on the pirate ship. I'll rescue her, Peter shouted. He hurried to get his weapons. He stopped suddenly as he passed the table with his medicine cup. I did not take my medicine because I wanted to displease Wendy, he said. Now I shall take it to show that I care. He lifted the cup to his lips. No, Tinkerbell shrieked. She had heard Hook as he raced through the forest, boasting aloud about what he had done. She knew the cup contained deadly poison. It's poisonous, she cried. Don't be silly, Peter said. He tipped the cup. Tinkerbell darted between the cup and his lips. In an instant, she drank the potion to the last drop to save Peter. She staggered backwards. Already the deadly brew was working. She settled softly on Peter's shoulder. Oh, Tink, Peter exclaimed. It really was poison. You did it to save me. He put his hand to his face. Why, Tink? Why did you do it? Tinkerbell raised herself to her feet and gave the tip of his nose a loving bite. She flew weakly to her bed and fell upon it. Peter poked his head into Tink's tiny room. Her light was flickering and growing faint. Once it went out, Tink would be gone forever. Peter began to cry. Large teardrops ran down his face. Tink whispered weakly. Peter put his ear close to hear what she was saying. I can get well again if children believe in fairies, she said softly. Peter threw up his hands. But there are no children here, he said. Then he thought of all the children in the world who were sleeping and dreaming of Neverland. "Don't let Tink die," he cried out to them. "If you believe in fairies, clap your hands." Tink sat up to listen for the children's answer. From all around the world came the faint sound of children clapping. Not all of them, of course, but enough to save Tink. Her voice grew strong. Then she popped out of bed. In seconds, she was darting around the room, as bright and merry as before. "And now, to rescue Wendy," Peter shouted. He dashed to the hollow tree and in an instant popped out into the world above. The moon was bright. Peter wanted to fly, but if he did, his shadow would trail through the trees and disturb the birds. Their chirping would alert the pirates of his coming. He would have to sneak through the forest like an Indian. He was quiet, excited for this, like every adventure. It would be great fun. And I'm going to go ahead and read chapter 10. The pirate ship. The pirates carried the children to Captain Hook's ship, the Jolly Roger. Lying at the anchor on Child's Creek near the mouth of the pirate river, the grim craft was covered with the bloody stains of piracy and war. The children were locked in a brig below. The men leaned over the ship's low rails, staring at the ink's black sea, or sat on deck playing cards or dice. Smee, whom they despised because he was so pathetic, sat at his sewing machine quietly at work. Hook paced the deck, deep in thought. He had just rid himself of Peter forever, and the children were doomed to walk the plank. But there was no joy in the captain's dark face. On the contrary, he was dejected and alone. "No little children love me," he thought. The idea had not bothered him before, but now, as he watched Smee, it did. Children thought Smee was lovable, though Smee himself thought children feared him. Hook wanted to claw at Smee with his iron claw, but stopped short. Unhappiness overwhelmed him. Why do children love him? Hook wondered. The answer terrified him. Good form. Smee's sense of fair play was indeed why children loved him. Hook quickly turned his attention to the children. "Are they chained so they can't fly away?" he bellowed. "Aye, sir," answered the pirate. "Then hoist them up," Hook ordered. All but Wendy were dragged from the hold and lined up in front of Captain Hook. Hook stroked his chin. "6 of you will walk the plank tonight," he said with a hint of pleasure in his voice. "But 2 of you I need for captain, boys. Which 2 will they be?" "I don't think my mother would want me to be a pirate," Toodles said. Slightly said the same, and so did the twins. Hook was annoyed. "Stop the gab," he roared, and then turned to John. "You look like you want to be a pirate, my hearty," he said. The truth was, sometimes in school, John had thought about being a pirate. "I once thought to call myself Red-Handed Jack," John replied. Hook beamed. "A good name, that," he said. "And what about you?" he asked, turning to Michael. "What would my name be if I joined?" Michael asked. "Blackbeard Joe," Hook said. Michael was impressed. "What do you think, John?" he asked his brother. "Would we have to give up our citizenship?" John asked. "You would have to swear, down with the king," Hook demanded. "Then I refuse," John said, banging his fist on a barrel. "And so do I," Michael joined in. The lost boys shouted their approval. "Then your fate is sealed," Hook shouted. "Bring up their mother," he ordered, "and prepare the plank." The boys were frightened, but each tried to look brave when Wendy was brought up from below. "So, my beauty," Hook said in a voice dripping with honey, "you are here to see your children walk the plank, eh?" "Are they to die?" Wendy asked. "Yes," Hook said sharply. "If you have any last words for them, speak them now." Wendy looked into each boy's face. "These are the last words all mothers would say to their children," she said firmly. "I hope you will be brave and die like English gentlemen." The pirates were awed. The boys stared at one another. We will do as our mother wishes," they said. "Silence," Hook shouted. "Tie her to the mast." Smee tied Wendy to the mast in the center of the foul ship. "I'll save you if you promise to be my mother," he whispered into her ear. Wendy shook her head. "Never," she said scornfully. The boys weren't watching Wendy. Their eyes were glued to the plank. Their thoughts were on the last walk they would soon take. Hook grinned fiendishly. Suddenly, the grin turned to horror. The night breeze carried with it the steady tick, tick, tick of the fearsome crocodile. "The crocodile's going to board my ship," he exclaimed. The terrified captain fell to the deck and crawled as fast as he could to a dark corner. "Hide me!" Hook shouted. His men formed a tight circle around him. The moment Hook was out of sight, the boys rushed to the rail. To their great joy and surprise, it was not the toothsome crocodile climbing the side of the ship. It was Peter. Peter put his finger to his grinning lips to quiet the boys and then went on ticking. So he tricked him by ticking like the alligator or crocodile. So we are on chapter 11, and on Friday I'll read chapter 11 and 12 so that we can finish it. So you guys have a great Wednesday, and I'll see you next time.